Virgo, there is something about your energy that people cannot understand. They see you, they notice your beauty, they notice the way you carry yourself, they notice the way people look at you, they notice the attention you receive, they notice the opportunities you could have, they notice the people who would probably love to get closer to you. And yet, somehow, you remain completely unavailable to the wrong people. That is what confuses them. Because people look at you and think there is no way someone this attractive is actually alone. They assume there must be someone. They assume you must be secretly involved with somebody. They assume that you must have several options. They assume that you are talking to someone behind the scenes. They assume that if they simply wait long enough, you will eventually give them access. But Virgo, the truth is that you may have reached a point where being alone is no longer frightening to you. And that changes everything. Because when a person is afraid of being alone, they can be convinced to accept almost anything. The wrong attention, the wrong relationship, the wrong situationship, the wrong promises, the wrong person. But when you genuinely become comfortable with your own company, the entire system changes. You no longer need someone just because they are available. You no longer accept attention simply because somebody is interested. You no longer confuse attraction with compatibility. You no longer believe that having someone is automatically better than having peace. And that is what people are beginning to notice about you. You may be beautiful. You may be desirable. You may have people who want you, but wanting access to you does not mean receiving access to you. And this is where people become confused because many people are used to beauty being connected with availability. They see someone attractive and assume that person must always be dating, always entertaining someone, always looking for attention, always seeking validation. But you may be completely different. You may be the type of person who receives attention but does not necessarily want it. You may be the type of person who gets approached but immediately notices when the person's intentions are shallow. You may be the type of person who can recognize the difference between genuine interest and someone who simply wants to possess something they find attractive. And Virgo, you may have become extremely selective, not because you believe you are better than everyone, not because you think nobody is good enough, but because you have learned what happens when you give access to the wrong people. You have learned that chemistry is not enough. You have learned that attraction is not enough. You have learned that someone saying, I want you, does not automatically mean they know how to treat you. You have learned that some people want your body but have no interest in your mind. Some people want your attention but do not want to give you consistency. Some people want the privilege of being close to you without accepting the responsibility of treating you with respect. And perhaps you have reached the point where you are no longer interested in that arrangement. You may have decided that your energy is too valuable to be given away casually. Your time is too valuable. Your attention is too valuable. Your emotional energy is too valuable. And perhaps even your physical intimacy is something you no longer give simply because someone knows how to make you feel attractive for a few hours. There is a difference between being desired and being valued. And Virgo, you may have learned that difference through experience. Someone can desire you and still disrespect you. Someone can be attracted to you and still be emotionally unavailable. Someone can pursue you intensely and still have no idea how to build something real. Someone can tell you that you are beautiful and still make you feel completely unseen. And perhaps you have experienced enough to understand that words are not enough. You want substance. You want consistency. You want someone whose actions match their interest. You want someone who can see more than your appearance. Because the truth is, Virgo, your beauty may actually make things more complicated. People may approach you because of what they see. They may create an entire fantasy about you before ever having a real conversation with you. They may imagine your personality. They may assume you are easy to impress. They may assume you are accustomed to being pursued and therefore desperate for attention. They may assume you are superficial because you are attractive. And then they speak to you. And suddenly, their assumptions begin to collapse because perhaps you are much more thoughtful than they expected, much more observant, much more private, much more difficult to impress. They may try the usual lines, the usual compliments, the usual performance, and you may simply look at them and think, is that all? That is the part that makes people nervous. Because you may not react the way they expect you to react. They may expect you to be flattered by attention. But you are asking yourself, who is this person? What are their intentions? How do they treat people? What do they do when they do not get what they want? How do they speak about their past relationships? Do their actions match their words? Do they respect boundaries? Do they have emotional maturity? Do they actually want to know me? Or do they simply want to say they had access to me? You may be asking questions that people do not realize you are asking. And while they are trying to impress you, you are quietly evaluating the entire situation. That is why you may appear difficult to reach, because you are not necessarily impressed by effort that is designed to impress you. You may be more impressed by consistency, by emotional intelligence, by respect, by integrity, by someone who does not need to dominate every conversation, by someone who can apologize, by someone who does not become aggressive when they are told no, by someone who understands that your boundaries are not an insult. And this is where your celibacy, your singleness, or your decision to remain unavailable can become powerful. You are not necessarily waiting for someone to save you. You are not sitting around hoping somebody will finally choose you. You may simply be choosing yourself. And people can feel the difference. There is a very different energy between someone who is single because they are desperate for a relationship and someone who is single because they refuse to enter the wrong relationship. The first person is searching for anyone. The second person is waiting for something that actually makes sense. And Virgo, you may have become the second person. You may have discovered that your life can be peaceful without romantic drama. You may have discovered that you can sleep better without wondering where someone is. You may have discovered that you can focus better without constantly negotiating your emotional needs with someone who barely understands them. You may have discovered that solitude is not the same thing as loneliness. And once you understand that, people become much less powerful over you because loneliness can make people accept things they would normally reject. But solitude can make you stronger. Solitude gives you time to hear your own thoughts. It gives you time to understand what you actually want. It gives you time to realize how many things you tolerated simply because you were afraid of being alone. And perhaps, Virgo, you have had that realization. You may have looked back at your past and thought, why did I accept that? Why did I ignore those red flags? Why did I make excuses for that behavior? Why did I stay when I already knew the truth? Why did I keep trying to convince someone to value me? And maybe you decided that you would never do that again. That decision may have changed your entire romantic life because now you are not just looking for someone who wants you, you are looking for someone who deserves access to you. And those are two completely different things. There may be people who are extremely interested in you, people who would love to have a relationship with you, people who would love to spend time with you, people who would love to be the person you choose. But that does not mean they automatically qualify. Interest is not qualification. Attraction is not qualification. A good first impression is not qualification. The real question is, what happens after the initial excitement? Can they remain consistent? Can they communicate? Can they respect your individuality? Can they handle your standards without trying to make you feel guilty for having them? Can they accept that you are not going to abandon yourself simply to keep them? Because, Virgo, you may be done with relationships where you have to become smaller to keep someone comfortable. You may be done with people who expect you to be endlessly understanding while offering you no understanding in return. You may be done with people who demand loyalty while giving you uncertainty. You may be done with people who want your softness but punish you when you become honest. You may be done with people who love the benefits of your presence but do not want to take responsibility for the impact they have on your life. And perhaps that is why you have become celibate or romantically unavailable. You are not necessarily rejecting love. You are rejecting the idea that love requires you to abandon your standards. You are rejecting the idea that physical intimacy should be used to secure emotional commitment. You are rejecting the idea that you need to give someone your body before they have shown you that they can respect your heart. And this is a choice that many people may not understand, especially people who are used to getting what they want quickly. They may be used to attraction leading to immediate access. They may be used to people becoming emotionally attached after physical intimacy. They may be used to using chemistry as a shortcut to closeness. But you may have realized that physical access does not guarantee emotional safety. Someone can be physically close to you and still not know you. Someone can share your bed and still be emotionally distant. Someone can touch you and still fail to respect you. Someone can say all the right things in a moment of passion and behave completely differently afterward. And perhaps you have learned not to confuse temporary intensity with permanent intention. That lesson alone can change everything. You may have decided that you are not going to give yourself to someone simply because the chemistry is strong. You want to know who they are when they are frustrated, who they are when they do not get their way, who they are when you disagree, who they are when nobody is watching, who they are when they have nothing to gain from being kind, because that is where character is revealed. Not in the beginning, not when someone is trying to win you, but after they believe they already have you. And Virgo, you may be watching for that. You may be observing how people behave once they become comfortable. Do they stop making effort? Do they start taking you for granted? Do they become disrespectful? Do they assume your boundaries will disappear because they have already received some access? You may have experienced this before, and perhaps now you are much more careful. There is someone who may be completely fascinated by your standards. They may not understand how you can be so attractive and still choose to remain alone. They may think, surely someone must be with them. They may ask other people about you. They may wonder whether you are secretly dating someone. They may try to figure out whether you are actually celibate or simply keeping your private life private. And perhaps the mystery is driving them crazy. Because people often become more curious when they cannot access information. If you were constantly posting your romantic life, everyone would know what was happening. But perhaps you do not. Maybe you are private. Maybe you do not tell people everything. Maybe you do not announce every person you speak to. Maybe you do not need to prove that you are desired by displaying everyone who wants you. And that creates a completely different kind of power. You do not need to show the world who is interested in you. You already know your value. You do not need to collect attention like trophies. You do not need to be surrounded by people just to prove that you are attractive. You do not need a relationship to prove that you are lovable. And this may be one of the most attractive things about you, because there is something extremely powerful about a person who is not desperate to be chosen. You may be beautiful and completely unattached. You may be desirable and still unavailable. You may be pursued and still say no. And people may not know how to process that. They may think, what do you mean you are not interested? They may not understand that attraction is not enough. You can find someone attractive and still know that they are not good for you. You can enjoy talking to someone and still recognize that they are emotionally immature. You can have chemistry with someone and still decide not to pursue it. You can miss someone and still refuse to return to them. You can love someone and still choose distance. That is emotional maturity. And not everyone possesses it. Some people believe that if feelings exist, they must automatically be acted upon. But you may have learned how to feel something without allowing it to control you. That is a completely different level of self-control. You may experience desire. You may feel attraction. You may miss someone. You may want closeness, but you do not automatically surrender your judgment because of those feelings. You are capable of pausing, thinking, observing, asking yourself whether what you want in the moment will actually be good for you later. And perhaps this is why people cannot understand you. They see your beauty and assume you must be ruled by attention. But you may actually be one of the most self-controlled people they have ever met. You may be able to say no to what many people would immediately accept, not because you do not have desires, because you have priorities. You may have goals. You may have a future you are building. You may have a version of yourself that you are protecting. And you may understand that the wrong person can disturb your entire life. The wrong relationship can affect your confidence, your finances, your health, your friendships, your productivity, your emotional stability, your sense of identity, and perhaps you are no longer willing to risk all of that for someone who has not proven that they can add value to your life. This is why some people may see you as intimidating. You are not simply looking for someone to fill a space. You are asking whether their presence improves the quality of your life. And that is a high standard because many people are used to being chosen simply because they are available. But you may ask more. What do you bring? How do you communicate? How do you handle conflict? How do you treat people who cannot help you? What is your relationship with responsibility? What do you do with your time? What do you believe in? What kind of future are you building? You may not ask these questions out loud, but you notice the answers. And someone who has never experienced that level of observation may feel completely exposed. They may be used to people falling for their charm. They may be used to getting attention easily. They may be used to being forgiven quickly, and then they meet you. You do not automatically reward bad behavior. You do not become impressed simply because someone wants you. You do not abandon your boundaries because someone is attractive. And suddenly, they realize they cannot manipulate the situation. That can make certain people obsessed with proving themselves to you. They may try harder. They may become more persistent. They may suddenly want to show you that they are different. But Virgo, be careful. Sometimes people do not actually want to become better. They simply want to overcome your resistance. There is a difference between someone who respects your standards and someone who sees your standards as a challenge. The first person thinks, I need to show them who I am. The second person thinks, I need to get past their defenses. And you need to know the difference because your boundaries should not be a game. Your celibacy should not be treated as a challenge. Your independence should not be treated as something someone needs to break. The right person will not want to conquer you. They will want to understand you. They will not want to force access. They will want to earn trust. They will not become angry because you take your time. They will appreciate that you take your time, and perhaps that is the kind of person you are waiting for. Someone who is not intimidated by your standards. Someone who does not see your independence as rejection. Someone who does not need you to become dependent on them to feel secure. Someone who can love you without trying to own you. Because Virgo, you may be deeply independent. You may want love. You may want connection. You may want companionship. But you do not want to lose yourself in the process. You do not want someone who needs to control you. You do not want someone who thinks your loyalty means they can disrespect you. You do not want someone who believes that because you love them, you will tolerate anything. And perhaps this is the part that shocks people. You can love deeply and still leave. You can care about someone and still say no. You can have history with someone and still decide that the future should not include them. You can remember the good times and still acknowledge the bad. You can miss someone and still protect yourself. That is why you are so difficult to replace, because when you give yourself, you do not do it casually. Your attention means something. Your trust means something. Your time means something. Your physical intimacy means something. Your emotional openness means something. And when someone receives those things from you, they may not realize how rare it is until it is gone. They may have assumed that because you gave them access once, you would always give them access. But you are not a door that remains permanently open. You are a person, and access can be removed. You may forgive someone without allowing them back into your life. You may wish someone well without wanting them near you. You may care about someone's happiness without wanting to be part of their story. And people may find that extremely difficult to understand, especially someone who thought they had permanent access to you. They may remember how close you once were. They may remember the conversations, the vulnerability, the affection, the intimacy. And now they may be looking at you and realizing that you have become completely unavailable. Not angry, not dramatic, just unavailable. And that can be more powerful than any argument. Because when you stop fighting for a connection, the other person has to face the reality that you may actually be finished. Perhaps someone is still hoping you will return. They may be waiting for you to change your mind. They may believe that if they contact you, you will immediately respond. They may believe that your feelings will overcome your standards, but they may not understand that you have changed. The old version of you may have returned. The old version of you may have accepted excuses. The old version of you may have waited. The old version of you may have believed promises, but the current version of you is different. You have learned, and lessons change people. There is a point where you stop asking, "Do they love me?" and start asking, "Do I feel safe with them?" There is a point where you stop asking, "Do they want me?" and start asking, "Do I want the life that comes with them?" There is a point where you stop asking, "Will they come back?" and start asking, "Why would I go back?" That is the evolution you may be experiencing. And perhaps people are shocked because they remember a version of you that was more available, more forgiving, more willing to wait, more willing to give people another chance. But now, your chances are not unlimited. Your patience has a limit. Your tolerance has a limit. Your availability has a limit. And people are learning that your beauty does not mean you are easy to access. In fact, perhaps the opposite is true. The more beautiful you become within yourself, the more selective you become about who gets close, because you have begun to understand that attention is not rare, but genuine connection is. Many people can want you. Far fewer people can actually understand you. Many people can compliment your appearance. Far fewer people can appreciate your mind. Many people can desire your body. Far fewer people can respect your boundaries. Many people can promise you the world. Far fewer people can show consistency in ordinary moments. And you may no longer be interested in potential. You may want evidence. You may want behavior. You may want reality. You may want someone who does not require you to constantly interpret their intentions, because confusion is exhausting. Mixed signals are exhausting. Inconsistency is exhausting. And perhaps you have finally realized that peace is more attractive than potential. You may have decided that you would rather be alone than constantly wonder where you stand. You would rather sleep alone than lie beside someone who makes you feel lonely. You would rather wait than rush into something that will damage your peace. You would rather be celibate than give your body to someone who has not earned your trust. You would rather be single than become emotionally attached to someone who only wants temporary access. And people may be shocked by that, but you know what you are protecting. You are protecting your peace, your future, your dignity, your emotional stability, your ability to wake up and still recognize yourself. Because sometimes the wrong relationship can make you forget who you were before it. You may begin changing your personality to avoid conflict, changing your appearance to maintain attraction, changing your goals to accommodate someone else's insecurity, changing your boundaries because they keep pushing, and one day you look in the mirror and realize that you have become a stranger to yourself. Perhaps you have lived through something like that, and now you refuse to repeat it. You may be beautiful, but you are not an object. You may be desirable, but you are not a prize to be won. You may be single, but you are not waiting helplessly. You may be celibate, but you are not deprived. You may be alone, but you are not incomplete. That is the message people may be learning from you, and it may challenge them because your existence proves that a person can have options and still choose solitude. A person can be desired and still choose restraint. A person can be attractive and still reject attention. A person can want love and still refuse the wrong kind of love. That is a powerful example. And someone may be watching you closely because they cannot understand how you do it. They may wonder whether you truly do not miss physical intimacy, whether you truly do not miss relationships, whether you truly do not want someone beside you. And perhaps the answer is more complicated than they expect. Of course, you may want closeness sometimes. Of course, you may have moments where you wish someone was there. Of course, you may desire connection. You are human, but wanting something does not mean you will accept the first version of it that appears. You can want love and still wait for healthy love. You can want intimacy and still wait for trust. You can want companionship and still refuse emotional chaos. You can want a relationship and still remain single until you find something that aligns with your values. That is not contradiction. That is discernment. And perhaps this is what makes you different. You do not let temporary feelings make permanent decisions for you. You may feel lonely one night and still refuse to call the person who repeatedly hurt you. You may miss someone and still refuse to reopen a door that should remain closed. You may feel attraction and still ask whether the person is emotionally safe. You may want attention and still refuse to accept crumbs. That is self-respect. And self-respect can be incredibly attractive. Someone may be looking at you and realizing that you are not like the people they have known before. They may have dated people who needed constant validation, people who could not be alone, people who confused attention with love, people who gave access too quickly and then expected commitment in return. And then they meet you. You are different. You are not impressed by being chosen. You are interested in choosing. And perhaps that is the shift that has changed your entire life. You are no longer asking, will they want me? You are asking, do I want them? That question gives you your power back. And once you start asking it, you will never look at relationships the same way again. Because someone can be attractive and still not be right for you. Someone can be successful and still be emotionally immature. Someone can be charming and still be dishonest. Someone can be passionate and still be unstable. Someone can love you and still not know how to love you properly. And you may be learning that compatibility is more important than chemistry. Consistency is more important than intensity. Respect is more important than obsession. Peace is more important than drama. And your standards may be becoming stronger because your self-awareness is becoming stronger. You know what you can tolerate. You know what you cannot. You know what you need. You know what makes you feel safe. You know what makes you shut down. And perhaps you are no longer ashamed of having those needs. You may have once been afraid of being called difficult, too selective, too independent, too guarded, too demanding, too much. But now, perhaps you understand that the people who complain about your boundaries are often the people who benefited from you having none. That realization can change everything. You are not too much for someone who is emotionally mature. You are not too independent for someone who is secure. You are not too selective for someone who understands quality. You are not too guarded for someone who knows that trust must be built. You are not too difficult. You simply require more than the minimum. And there is nothing wrong with that. The right person will not ask you to lower your standards. They will meet them, and if they cannot, they will not try to convince you that your standards are the problem. They will simply understand that you are not compatible. That is maturity. And perhaps you are waiting for someone mature enough to understand that someone who does not see your celibacy as a challenge, someone who does not see your beauty as an invitation, someone who does not see your independence as something to defeat, someone who does not want to take your power away in order to feel powerful, someone who can stand beside you without needing to control you. That person may be rare, but perhaps you are also rare, and rare people cannot always be found quickly. You may have to wait. You may have to remain alone for a while. You may have to reject people who are attractive but incompatible. You may have to disappoint people who want access to you. You may have to walk away from situations that look exciting but feel wrong. And sometimes that can be difficult because you may see other people in relationships. You may see couples everywhere. You may have moments where you wonder whether you are missing out. But remember, you are only seeing the outside of their relationships. You do not know what happens behind closed doors. You do not know what they tolerate. You do not know what they sacrifice. You do not know whether they are happy, and you do not need to compare your private life to someone else's public image. Your path is your own. Your timing is your own. Your standards are your own. And your choice to remain celibate or single is valid as long as it is genuinely your choice. Not something you are doing to punish someone, not something you are doing to manipulate someone, not something you are doing because you believe you are unworthy of love, but something you are doing because you are protecting your values, your peace, your body, your emotional energy, or simply because you are not interested in giving yourself to someone who does not feel right. That is your decision, and nobody has the right to pressure you out of it. People may try. They may tell you that you are wasting your time. They may tell you that you are too picky. They may tell you that you will regret being alone. They may tell you that everyone needs someone, but you know yourself. You know what you need. And perhaps you have realized that the wrong person can make you feel lonelier than being alone ever could. So you are choosing carefully. You are choosing slowly. You are choosing intentionally. And the person who eventually earns access to you will understand that it is not something to take for granted because you are not giving them the version of you that everyone gets. You are giving them trust, and trust is something you build, not something you hand over simply because someone is attractive. There may be someone who wants to be the exception. They may look at your standards and think, I can change their mind. They may believe that they are different from everyone else. And perhaps they are, but the only way to prove it is through behavior, not speeches, not promises, not grand gestures, behavior, consistency, patience, respect, the ability to accept no, the ability to communicate honestly, the ability to remain kind even when they are disappointed, the ability to understand that you are not a challenge to conquer. You are a person to know, and if someone can understand that, they may have a chance. But if they are only interested in winning, they will eventually reveal themselves. Because people who want to conquer you lose interest once they realize you cannot be controlled. People who genuinely value you become more respectful when they realize how much trust matters to you. That is the difference. And Virgo, you may be learning to watch for that difference. You are no longer interested in being someone's obsession for a week. You want to be valued consistently. You are no longer interested in being someone's fantasy. You want to be known as a real person. You are no longer interested in being someone's temporary escape. You want something grounded. You are no longer interested in being desired only for your appearance. You want someone who can appreciate your mind, your values, your humor, your flaws, your contradictions, your ordinary days. Because real love is not only about the moments when you look beautiful, it is about the moments when you are tired, stressed, confused, quiet, uncertain, human, and perhaps that is what you want now. Someone who does not only want the polished version of you, someone who does not disappear when you are no longer entertaining, someone who does not lose interest when the initial excitement fades, someone who can remain, and until that person appears, you may remain exactly where you are, alone, beautiful, selective, peaceful, and completely unavailable to anything that does not meet your standards. People may not understand you. They may think you are wasting your beauty. They may think you should be dating. They may think you should give someone a chance. But your beauty is not a resource that other people are entitled to consume. Your body is not a public service. Your attention is not a public service. Your emotional availability is not a public service. You are allowed to choose where your energy goes. And perhaps you have finally realized that you are allowed to say no, not because someone is ugly, not because they are worthless, simply because you do not want them. You are allowed to say, not yet, not because you are afraid, because you are not ready. You are allowed to say, I do not trust this. Even if someone else thinks the person is wonderful, you are allowed to say, this does not align with my values. Even if everyone else thinks you are being difficult, you are allowed to say, I would rather be alone, and mean it. That is your power. And perhaps someone has never encountered a person who possesses that kind of power. They may have met attractive people before. They may have met intelligent people before. They may have met independent people before. But perhaps they have never met someone who combines all of these qualities with the ability to walk away from attention. That is what makes you different. You are not easily purchased with compliments. You are not easily controlled with affection. You are not easily manipulated with jealousy. You are not easily convinced by empty promises. And when someone realizes that, they may become fascinated because you are not playing the usual game. You are not competing for attention. You are not trying to make anyone jealous. You are not begging someone to choose you. You are simply living, and your life continues whether someone wants access to you or not. That is the energy people may be feeling from you. You have a life. You have interests. You have goals. You have your own identity. And a relationship would need to add something meaningful to that life. It would not be allowed to become your entire identity. And that is healthy. You can love someone without losing yourself. You can be committed without becoming dependent. You can be intimate without abandoning your boundaries. You can be vulnerable without giving someone unlimited power over you. And perhaps you are preparing for a connection that respects exactly that. A connection where you do not have to choose between love and yourself. Because the right relationship will not require you to disappear. It will not require you to become smaller. It will not require you to give up your standards. It will not require you to prove your loyalty through self-abandonment. It will allow you to remain yourself. And perhaps, Virgo, that is why you have been alone. Not because you are unlovable, not because nobody wants you, not because you are destined to be alone, but because you have been learning the difference between being wanted and being valued. And that lesson may have required you to reject many opportunities that looked attractive on the surface. You may have had people who wanted you, but you knew they were not right. You may have had opportunities for relationships, but you knew you would have to compromise too much. You may have had people who were physically attractive, but their character did not impress you. And perhaps you have finally learned to trust that feeling. You do not need to justify every rejection. You do not need to explain why someone was not right for you. You are allowed to simply know. Sometimes your body knows before your mind can explain. Sometimes your energy feels uncomfortable around someone. Sometimes you notice something subtle, a contradiction, a disrespectful comment, a strange reaction, a lack of accountability, and you realize that the person is not for you. You do not need a dramatic betrayal to leave. You do not need proof beyond all doubt. You can simply decide that something does not feel right, and that is enough. This is what people may be learning about you. You are not waiting for someone to rescue you from loneliness. You are not desperately looking for a partner. You are not giving yourself to anyone simply because they are interested. You are choosing, and perhaps your choice is what makes you so attractive. Because people can feel when someone has standards. They can feel when someone is not desperate. They can feel when someone has self-respect. And perhaps someone is looking at you right now thinking, I have never met anyone like this. They may have never met someone so beautiful who was so difficult to access. They may have never met someone who could receive so much attention and still choose peace. They may have never met someone who could desire love without becoming desperate for it. They may have never met someone who could be physically attracted to another person and still say no. They may have never met someone who understood that intimacy is not simply a physical act. It can be emotional, mental, spiritual in the personal sense. It can create attachment. It can create vulnerability. It can change how you see someone. And perhaps you are careful about who you allow to have that kind of influence over you. You are not afraid of intimacy. You simply respect it. You understand that giving yourself to someone can affect you, and you do not want to pretend otherwise. You do not want to act like you are emotionless. You do not want to give someone access and then pretend it means nothing when it actually does. You know yourself, and perhaps knowing yourself has made you more selective. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. You are not required to behave like everyone else. You are not required to date because everyone else is dating. You are not required to become sexually active because other people believe you should. You are not required to accept a relationship because someone is interested. Your life belongs to you. Your body belongs to you. Your choices belong to you. And perhaps that is the most important message here. You do not need to prove your maturity by giving yourself away. You do not need to prove your attractiveness by being desired by someone. You do not need to prove your worth by being in a relationship. You do not need to prove that you are lovable by allowing someone to access you. You are already worthy. And the right person will understand that. They will not make you feel guilty for taking your time. They will not pressure you. They will not punish you for having boundaries. They will not treat your celibacy as an obstacle. They will not treat your beauty as permission. They will understand that access to you is a privilege, not a right. And perhaps that is why the person who eventually gets close to you will be deeply affected, because they will know that you did not choose them simply because you were lonely. You chose them because they genuinely stood out. They earned your trust. They demonstrated consistency. They showed you something real. And when a person like you finally chooses someone, that choice means something. You do not choose easily. You do not attach easily. You do not open up easily. So when you do, it is significant. And perhaps there is someone who wants to be that person, someone who wants to prove that they are different, someone who wants to be the person you finally allow close. But they will have to understand that they cannot rush you. They cannot force you. They cannot manipulate you. They cannot pressure you. They cannot make you feel guilty. They will have to be patient. They will have to be real. They will have to accept that you are not interested in giving yourself to someone simply because they want you. And if they cannot handle that, then they were never the right person. The right person will not be threatened by your self-control. They will admire it. They will not be threatened by your independence. They will appreciate it. They will not be threatened by your standards. They will respect them. They will not try to reduce you. They will want to see you fully. And Virgo, perhaps that is what you deserve. Not someone who wants to possess your beauty, someone who appreciates your entire existence, not someone who wants access to your body, someone who respects your boundaries, not someone who wants to control your attention, someone who earns your trust, not someone who wants to be chosen simply because they asked, someone who gives you a reason to choose them. Until then, remain exactly where you are. You do not have to rush. You do not have to settle. You do not have to become available simply because someone is interested. You do not have to explain why you are single. You do not have to defend your celibacy. You do not have to apologize for being selective. You do not have to pretend that everyone deserves access to you. They do not. And perhaps the world is finally beginning to understand that. You can be beautiful and unavailable. You can be desirable and selective. You can be alone and completely fulfilled. You can want love and still reject the wrong kind. You can have options and still choose none of them. And perhaps the person who is watching you cannot understand how you do it, but the answer is simple. You know your worth, and you know what it costs you when you forget it. So you are no longer willing to trade your peace for temporary attention. You are no longer willing to trade your standards for temporary intimacy. You are no longer willing to trade your identity for a relationship. You are no longer willing to give yourself to people who only want the easiest parts of you. You want someone who can handle all of you: your beauty, your mind, your boundaries, your emotions, your independence, your standards, your quiet moments, your complicated moments, your serious side, your playful side, your flaws, your growth, all of it. And until someone can appreciate all of that, you are perfectly capable of standing alone. Because being alone is not the same thing as being unwanted. Sometimes being alone means you are refusing to be with the wrong person. Sometimes being alone means you are protecting your future. Sometimes being alone means you are learning to love your own life. Sometimes being alone means you have finally become too honest with yourself to accept what you once tolerated. And perhaps that is where you are now. You are not waiting for someone to complete you. You are waiting for someone who can meet you as a complete person. That is a completely different standard. And perhaps that is why people say they have never met anyone like you, because they have never met someone who could be so beautiful and still be so unavailable to nonsense. They have never met someone who could receive attention and still choose peace. They have never met someone who could want love without begging for it. They have never met someone who could desire intimacy without giving themselves to the first person who showed interest. They have never met someone who understood that being chosen is not the ultimate goal. Choosing well is. And Virgo, you are learning to choose well. You are learning to choose yourself first. You are learning to protect what is precious. You are learning that not every person who wants you deserves you. You are learning that not every connection deserves your energy. You are learning that not every desire needs to become an action. You are learning that patience can protect you from pain. And perhaps someone is watching this transformation. They may remember when you were more available. They may remember when you gave more chances. They may remember when you were easier to reach. And now they are looking at you wondering what happened. The answer is simple. You grew, you learned, you became more conscious of your value, and now access to you requires something real, not perfection, not wealth, not status, not a perfect appearance. Something real: respect, honesty, consistency, emotional maturity, and perhaps a genuine desire to know you beyond what everyone else sees. Because your beauty may attract people, but your depth is what keeps the right people, and your standards decide who gets close enough to discover that depth. So, Virgo, do not allow anyone to make you feel strange for choosing yourself. Do not allow anyone to tell you that your boundaries are excessive. Do not allow anyone to make you feel guilty for being celibate, single, selective, or private. Your life is yours. Your body is yours. Your time is yours. Your energy is yours. And you are allowed to give them only where you feel respected. The people who are meant to be in your life will understand. They will not demand access. They will earn trust. They will not pressure you. They will give you time. They will not try to break your boundaries. They will appreciate that your boundaries exist. And one day, perhaps someone will finally understand why you were so selective. They will understand why you waited. They will understand why you said no. They will understand why you walked away from people who wanted you. Because when they finally meet you with genuine intentions, they will realize that you were never difficult to love. You were simply unwilling to be loved carelessly. And there is a difference. You were never impossible to reach. You simply did not want to be reached by everyone. You were never cold. You simply stopped giving warmth to people who only came close to take from you. You were never incapable of love. You simply learned that love without respect can become another form of pain. And now you are different, beautiful, selective, independent, peaceful, and perhaps more powerful than you have ever been. Let people wonder. Let them ask who you are talking to. Let them wonder whether someone has your heart. Let them be shocked that you can be so beautiful and still be alone. Because you know the truth. You are not alone because nobody wants you. You are alone because you have decided that wanting you is not enough. You need someone who can value you, respect you, understand you, and meet you where you are. Until then, you will continue living your life. You will continue becoming more confident, more beautiful in your own way, more peaceful, more selective, more aware, and the more comfortable you become with yourself, the more people will notice. They may look at you and wonder how you can remain so composed, how you can reject attention, how you can walk away, how you can remain single, how you can be desired and still choose yourself. And perhaps the answer is something they have never learned. You do not have to accept everything you are offered simply because someone offers it. You do not have to take every opportunity. You do not have to enter every relationship. You do not have to open every door. You can stand in front of a door and decide that what is behind it is not for you, and then walk away. That is freedom. That is self-respect. That is the kind of energy people cannot fake. And perhaps that is why they have never met anyone like you, because you are not waiting to be rescued. You are not waiting to be completed. You are not waiting for someone to give you permission to feel valuable. You already know. You may still have moments of doubt. You may still have moments of loneliness. You may still desire connection. But you no longer allow those moments to make your decisions for you. You have learned to wait. You have learned to observe. You have learned to protect yourself. And you have learned that the right person will not require you to betray yourself in order to be loved. So, Virgo, keep your standards, keep your boundaries, keep your peace, keep your ability to say no. Keep your right to choose. And if people cannot understand why someone as beautiful as you remains unavailable, let them wonder. They do not need to understand. You do. You know that your beauty is not your only value. You know that your body is not the only thing you have to offer. You know that your love is not something to give away simply because someone asks for it. And you know that the person who eventually receives the deepest version of you will need to understand the responsibility that comes with it. Because you are not casual. Your presence is not casual. Your trust is not casual. Your intimacy is not casual. Your love is not casual. And perhaps that is why people remember you. They may have met beautiful people before. They may have met intelligent people before. They may have met independent people before. But perhaps they have never met someone who could combine beauty, intelligence, self-control, independence, and mystery in the same person. And that is what makes you unforgettable. Not because you are trying to be, because you refuse to become available to people who have not earned the right to know you. And that is your choice. You do not have to change it for anyone. You do not have to rush because someone is impatient. You do not have to settle because someone else thinks you should. You do not have to lower your standards because you are afraid of being alone. The wrong person can cost you far more than solitude ever will. And perhaps you already know that. So continue choosing yourself. Continue protecting your energy. Continue learning. Continue growing. Continue becoming more comfortable in your own skin. And one day, someone may come along who does not see your standards as a wall. They see them as evidence that you know your value. They do not see your celibacy as a challenge. They see it as a personal choice. They do not see your beauty as an invitation. They see it as one part of who you are. They do not want to possess you. They want to know you. And if you choose them, it will not be because you were desperate. It will not be because you were lonely. It will not be because you needed someone to validate you. It will be because they genuinely earned your trust. And when you choose someone from that place, the connection can be completely different because you are not giving yourself away. You are sharing yourself intentionally. There is a difference. And until that person appears, you are allowed to remain exactly as you are. Beautiful, private, selective, unattached, unbothered by the pressure to prove anything, because you have already proven the most important thing. You can live without abandoning yourself. And perhaps that is the reason they have never met anyone like you. You are not waiting for someone to tell you that you are valuable. You are learning to live as though you already know, and that is an energy people cannot ignore. So let them stare, let them wonder, let them ask questions, let them try to understand how you can be so beautiful and still give yourself to no one. The answer is simple. You are not waiting for just anyone. You are waiting for something that feels worthy of the person you have become. And until then, your own company is enough. Your peace is enough. Your standards are enough. Your life is enough. And when someone finally enters that life, they will need to add to it, not destroy it, not control it, not consume it, not reduce it, add to it, because you have spent too much time becoming yourself to lose yourself for someone else. You have spent too much time healing to return to chaos. You have spent too much time learning to settle for confusion. You have spent too much time discovering your value to hand it over to someone who only wants access. So, Virgo, remain selective, remain patient, remain true to yourself. You are not difficult. You are not too much. You are not missing out. You are simply no longer willing to give everything to someone who has only offered you the minimum. And that is why people may look at you and say, I have never met anyone like you. Because they have never met someone who understands that being beautiful does not mean being available. Being desired does not mean being desperate. Being single does not mean being lonely. Being celibate does not mean being incomplete. And choosing yourself does not mean you are incapable of love. It means you finally understand that love should never require you to abandon yourself. And Virgo, that understanding may be the most beautiful thing about you.